Okay, let's just test this out now. Great. I don't believe it, we finally got live. Okay, now let's get this sorted. Welcome. Yeah. Okay, so, oh God, so difficult. Done. You're the man. Right, let's try that. Oh, come on, YouTuber, really? Right. And this is why no one watches YouTube live streams. Oh, there we go. Hey there, Double Feed. How are you, mate? Welcome to the stream. Oh man, what a nightmare it is to try and live stream on YouTube, eh? How are you, bud? Good afternoon. So you must be in the States. East or West Coast, bud? Let me see if this works. Okay, let's wait a little bit longer and just see how this goes. Or at least the audio is working, yeah? Alright, so that's our braid, which is good. There's our 80-pound line. There's a visual on that like. Okay, so we'll zoom in on that. West, okay mate. Yeah, actually that's going to work out well. So what I'll do is I'll tie the knots here. Yep, work from there. Welcome mate. You're starting to get into your spring over there, double feed. What do you normally fish for over there, bud? Yep, good to see those commands are working. Thanks. What we might do is just move this back a bit, I think. I've got some new streaming equipment that I'm testing out. So let's try that and see how that goes. Better, okay. There you go. Yeah, unfortunately, live streaming on YouTube is a lot more difficult than other platforms. That's why it's a bit of a burden, if you know what I mean. So we did live stream on YouTube last year when we only had about 1,100 subscribers, and we're just starting to get into the live streaming again. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to do a really basic knot tying tutorial. We've had a lot of questions in our live streams about different knots. You might have to refresh, bud. You've got halibut, trout and bass. Okay. Yeah, just try and refresh, mate. Who knows what's going on? Yeah, no dramas, matey. Here we go. Oh. So when you say you fish out of the West Coast, do you fish California? Thanks to the 4 viewers that have tuned in. This is our first live stream in over a year. Just north of there. Okay, mate. Yeah, we really are the poor cousins when it comes to fishing here in Western Australia, as we don't have anywhere near the same amount of species as you do in the States. The other thing too, it's quite interesting how there's a very similar trend in Australia compared to the States. So we have a lot more fishing options on the East Coast than on the West Coast here. We have good game fishing when you head to sort of Perth and north of Perth, but in terms of like the different numbers of fish and species and all that sort of stuff, the East Coast is far more prevalent, if you know what I mean. And from what I've been told by people in the live streams, that's what it's like in the States as well. So I don't know whether there's any truth to the States, but yeah, the other thing is too, with your freshwater fishing, we have 3 types of freshwater fish in Western Australia. We have no naturally occurring freshwater fish. So we have rainbow trout, brown trout and redfin perch that were all stocked and introduced. And yes, if it wasn't for the stocking programs, we wouldn't have any naturally occurring freshwater fish to chase. Whereas on the East Coast, you've got Murray cod, silver perch, golden perch. Oh, okay. When you say very diverse, is that the West Coast double feed or the East Coast? Okay, well, what we'll do is I will bring the camera in closer on the table and we'll start tying some knots. Okay, now with your knots that you use in the States, they're probably the same knots that we use here in Australia. They've probably just got a different name, but this is the good thing about doing live streams and that sort of stuff. When you have people live in the chat, you end up comparing, you know, techniques. Yeah, okay, mate, because brown trout are introduced into America, whereas rainbow trout, whether they're the steelheads or the variations of the rainbow trout and that sort of stuff, yeah, I mean, even with your flies and that sort of stuff, you have your own little culture within a culture, if you know what I mean. All right, so let's get this started. Okay. So what we're going to do is this. Right, we're just going to come in here like this. Okay, like that. Ta-da! And what we're going to do is, boom. Okay. Oh, really? Okay, well, that's pretty good. Now, what have we got here? I think the best thing to do with this as well is I'm going to use a rather large object just to highlight a few things. Okay. Well, on the east coast of Australia, we have Australian bass, jungle perch and all sorts of stuff, bud. So it just works out quite well, if you know what I mean. So what I want to do is try and figure out my spatial awareness here. Okay, so we need to bring this back here then. Please excuse the sort of that's better. Okay, yeah, please excuse the amateurish nature of the live stream. All I want to do is just try and make it like, you know, we're just all sitting around and having a chat opposite a table. Okay. Now, one knot that we use here that I haven't seen used in a lot of places is a knot called the centaur knot. Okay, so with the centaur knot is really easy to use, and on top of that as well, you can actually join different lines together. Okay, and you can join lines of different poundages together as well. Now, it's a fairly simple knot. Okay, and this was actually introduced to Australia by Dick Lewis at the 1974 Brisbane boat show, from memory. Now, that's your tag end, right? And it's a really simple knot. And of all the knots, it's actually one of the few knots that has a near 100% breaking strain. So all you do is you reach around and put one loop in your line, like this. Then you put another loop in your line like this, slightly smaller than the first loop. Put another loop in your line like this, slightly smaller than the first two loops. Bring that back through there, right, like so. And then what you do is you gently form the knot like that. Okay, and what you've got is you've got a really simple knot that doesn't bed in on itself like most knots that are, okay, and with that what it does is it makes a very nice, very neat, compact little knot, okay, and the more that you pull on it, okay, the tighter it forms. You can use this knot with fly fishing, you can use it with all sorts of fishing, and what it does, I mean, this is 80-pound Asari line, right? And I don't know whether you can see that. It actually makes a very compact, very neat little knot, okay, that helps you out in a situation where you've got to get everything tight. It's not working very well. Right, try that. We'll move that back a bit. Oh, it is double feed. I use this on everything from, you know, fly fishing leaders. Okay, and when I'm out in the boat and if I've just been bitten off by something and I've got enough length left in my line, I'll just hit it again and away we go. Now the other thing is too, okay, you can actually tease it out, but it's one of the few knots where the loop comes out at the back but it doesn't let go. Now, as well as that, we have what we call the improved clinch knot. I don't know whether you call it a double grinner or whatever. This is pretty simple. So once, twice, 3 times, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so in the old days, this was the clinch knot. Okay. So what they would do is they would just put that back through, the loop there, like so, right. And what they would do, this is the old clinch knot there, okay. And what they would do is they would just pull that down like that, and they'd form a nice little knot like this, okay. And you can usually tell when the knot is spot on when you've got a perpendicular tag end sticking out of it. It's really easy to show the knots and that sort of stuff when you do the knots on a large object like a pair of scissors rather than a hook or anything, right? And you've got the tag end coming out here, okay? Now I've got a question, double feed. Would it help and would you find it easier to see the knots if I used a dark coloured line, right, instead of a line that's the same colour as the table? Would that help out? Because I'm just looking at this thinking, maybe I should get a different coloured line so that it's easier to see. I think that might be an idea. Does it? Okay. Well, look, mate, believe it or not, I actually find it hard to see myself. So what I might do is I might just go and grab the actual darker coloured line, and it'll have a better contrast, if you know what I mean. I might even just grab a little red coloured fishing line that I have and see how we go. Right, what do we got here? Oh dear. That's not quite thick enough, I don't think. Let's just go and get this out of here. Oh, a bit of rain. Fix the hinges on that. Make it easier to see. It doesn't smell the best. And as always, when you need it, the light goes out. There it is. Lovely. Okay, that's better. All right, so what we've got here now, sorry about the delay. Okay, we're going to use a slightly thinner line, but it's a complete contrast to what we're doing. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll show you that centaur knot again. So when you tie knots, you've got to try and view this with some sort of method. Okay, so let me just adjust that slowly. There we go. So even though you've got the a very thin line, right? Looking at it sort of horizontally, you've got, you know, left and right hand side depending on how you want to do it, and then above it you've got top and bottom. So whenever I tie knots, I always try and do it in a way that makes the knot easy to tie. So with a centaur knot, it's always difficult to tie like this, okay, where you come in and bed back over the line. So what you do is, if that's the eye of your hook or your swivel or whatever, right, from there, so you go once, like that, whoops, so you go once, and then you do a slightly smaller loop the second time, right, and then 3 times like that, okay, and then what you do is you bring that back through there, like so, right, bring that down, and then what you've got is you've got a nicely formed little knot, a little bit of lubrication there with a bit of spittle, okay, and then what we do there is you just gently coax the knot down, right, voila, there we go. So this is the centaur knot done with the darker fishing line so that we can actually see the contrast in it. And as you can see, you've got a really nice compact little line. And the other good thing about this too is with the centaur knot, what you can do is you can actually join lines together that are different diameters. So for example here, right, if I wanted to join say 50-pound line and 30-pound line, what I could do is use the centaur knot to do that. Just learning my angles here, right. There we go, okay. And then what you'd have is you've got a knot that's quite small and not very obtrusive, okay, and it's got very, very good breaking strain, which sort of is hard to believe because with that you look at the knot and think, oh yeah, there's nothing to it, so it can't be that strong, but it is. Okay, now, as I showed you before, in the old days we had the clinch knot, okay? So with the clinch knot, you put that through the eye of the object that you're tying, right? Okay, 7 times around the line. That's how I've always been taught to tie knots, right? 7 times around the line. So this was the old clinch knot, right? So basically that was it. Okay, back through that little tear-shaped loop, you pull on that, okay, and there's your knot. Righty? There. Okay, nice little perpendicular tag end. All good, right? Now the only issue with that is, okay, is that didn't quite have 100% breaking strain. So by one little simple maneuver, what they did was this. They did the improved clinch knot, okay? So with the improved clinch knot, 7 times around the line, 7 times around the line, back through there, and then what they decided to do, right, is they pulled that loop back through there. And what that did is that added another few percent breaking strain to the knot, okay, and they had a far stronger knot, right, and a far more reliable knot, and it improved the fishing from there, okay? So that's the improved clinch knot. Now, a lot of people like to use the uni knot. I don't. The good thing about the improved clinch knot is you've got the tag end at the front. The harder you pull on the line, or harder a fish pulls, the harder it beds in on the knot, so the chances of it slipping are virtually nil. And as well as that too, the only time it'll really snap is if you've got 2 big fish on there, okay? So with the uni knot's a little bit different, okay? So with the uni knot, the tag end comes out the back. This is why I don't like it, especially on larger fish. So with the uni knot, what you do is you'll form your loop in here, right, across your line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6. So what you do is you'll just wrap the knot, wrap the tag end around the 2 loops that you've made. Okay, like that. Righty, here we go. Now the only problem with this, see how the tag end's coming out the back of the knot? Right, I've actually had issues with this knot, especially on larger fish, like smaller sharks and that sort of stuff. So I have had instances where the knot's unraveled out the back, and see how it can slip off? Right, that's another reason why I don't like using the uni knot. So, whereas with the other knots, once you've bedded them in, right, you've bedded them in, if you know what I mean. Okay, and that makes it one less thing that can go wrong. Okay, now one of the questions that we asked quite a lot is how do you join braid to monofilament? Now, I've been using the 1 knot for about 30 years, okay, and this is how I've always joined braid to monofilament. It's the easiest way to do it, I found, and it's the simplest. You don't have to go through and do 57 different sort of loops and other things and that to get it done. So with this, basically, if you've got your braid and your monofilament here, like so, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and what you basically do is, I normally do about 12 loops. You can do 15, 20, just it depends on how much braid you've got. Right, then what I'll do is, you just form a circle like that, right? Always making sure that you've got wrapped up braid in there. So then what you do is, you reach through, there's 1 loop, right, there's 2 loops. Now see how the tag end has come off that braid on the monofilament? That's going to cause a bit of a headache. That's all right. Okay, I have got a little bit of a tag here as well, but the knot will still work. 3 times and 4 times, and then what you do is you just pull the 2 loops together. So I've got 55 pound monofilament and 40 pound Tasline here. Right, ta-da! So what you've got there now is you've got a very small, very compact knot. The 2 different types of knots have bedded into each other, and then when you cut the tag end, this is a bit difficult to rifle out through a rod when you're casting, but I mean, if you want to put a you know, like a little monofilament leader that you can tie to your swivel and that to save your braid, right, and this is out of your rod tip when you're casting, see now, so that's only 40 pound mono and 40 pound braid and 55 pound mono. And what we've got there is we've got a very, very small compact knot. The braid's coming out of one end, the monofilament's coming out of the other, and then the actual braid and monofilament have intertwined. So that makes life a little bit easier, okay? And that's a really good knot to use. And then what you do is you just leave about, say, I don't know, 15, 20 inches. And then what you can do with that is you'll just tie that to your swivel, right, which will save your braid, okay? So the other thing is too, there's various loop knots you can do as well. Loop knots are really good. especially when it comes to lure fishing, because as soon as you lose a loop knot, you'll increase your catch rate dramatically because it gives your lures better actions. So with a loop knot, what you do is you just tie a good old-fashioned granny knot here like this. Right, there we go. Okay, and what you do is you just rifle the tag end into your eye of your lure. Right, try and get the granny knot as close as you can to the eye of the object you're tying. Then what we do is you put the tag end back through there. Right, fold that over the line. That makes life easier. So 6 times around, or 7 times, whatever you do, bring that back through there to lock it in. Now, when you're forming this knot, the mistake that people make is they'll pull the tag end towards the hook. You don't want it to do that. You want it to, that's already locked in. All right, come on, bud. You basically want to pull the tag end back towards your main line. Okay, so when you're back towards your main line like that, what happens is, okay, you get left with a beautiful little loop knot. Okay, that's got close to 100% strength, and then what happens is the lure can go left, right, up, down, spin around, whatever you want it to do, and it'll actually maintain a really good action in the water, and it does tend to increase the catch rate. Okay. Now the other thing is too, when you're fishing the beach, I always use a loop to join my sinkers because it just saves me losing terminal tackle, especially with the price of terminal tackles nowadays. So the easy loop knot, right, which is the one that you can use on your saltwater rigs, is just get the line folded over, figure out how big your loop needs to be to fit your sinker through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, like that. Bring that back through there. So then what you have is, you have your little basic loop knot. Then, just as a bit of insurance, you do a triple hitch in here. Right, like so. Bring that back down through there. Ta-da! There we are. And what you've got is, okay, a good little loop knot. And if you, if that gets destroyed by a reef or whatever, it's no big deal because all you've lost is monofilament rather than terminal tackle as well, and it just gives you one less expense when you're fishing. Okay, now another basic knot that'll help you fishing too. Now you can use this on deep sea fishing rigs, you can use this on beach fishing rigs, you can use it on whatever, right? So the loop knot, basically with this, what you're doing is you're just wrapping line around itself, okay, and you're forming the knots. Then what you do is you reach through there, you bring not a guru at all, Stephen. The thing is that I don't get, bud, right, is no one shows people how to do things anymore. And knot tying is one of the basic fundamentals of all your fishing, mate. And if you don't have good knots, you won't have good success, you know. And with this thing, mate, when we were younger, and I mean, times were different back in the 70s, okay? I mean, the first thing you learnt was your knots, okay? So see that here? What I've got is I've got a beautifully formed knot. There are 3 or 4 different ways to do loop knots and that sort of stuff. This is the way that I like to do it. I just find it easier. Just find it far less difficult to do. And for example there, if you've got, say, a school of salmon that come through and boom, they've hit a small rig that you're using, say 20 or 30 pound line to catch your smaller fish species, you rip out your 55 pound mono, right like this, boom, whack a hook on there with a bit of bait and you're straight out in the water, okay? And the other thing is too, with this rig, depending on how you want to fish, Okay, what you've got to do is you've got to try and guess how long you want your loops to be. So with this sort of thing here, my hands are about 12 inches apart there, so I'll end up with two 6-inch loops. Okay, so see how I've done the loop in the middle there, right? Bring that through the middle like so, right, ta-da! And what I've got now is, I've got a beautiful, hey Deathless Pig, how are you bud? Good to see you mate. Nice to see familiar faces in here. See what I've done there? I've got a beautiful loop, right, that is far enough away from the main line so it doesn't deter fish, okay? Yeah, I'm just trying to tie the knot, Cole. So see that there? Right, and what'll happen is, and if you do the comparison with the two, right, so see how we've got the two different size loop knots here, okay? There's an old rule that a lot of the old fishing captains use out in the boat, okay? The deeper you fish, the closer your hooks to your main line. So if I was going to fish 10 or 15 metres of water, whether that was in a boat or casting from the beach, I'd use the top loop here, right? But if I was going to fish, you know, 50, 60, 100 metres of water, I'd just have a very, very small loop like that with just enough line on it just to cover the hooks. Yeah, good mate. Yourself, how you been? You keeping well? Is everybody happy with the new audio? We bought a new mic for the streams, and I've got some new streaming software where we're trying to provide really clear content. Now I'll show you why loop knots are good. Right, watch this. So with a loop knot, I can put anything I want onto the loop, any type of hook or whatever. Right, bring that in there, la-da-da-da-dee, right, okay, and away we go. Okay, see how that's connected? Now, one mistake people make when they do their loops and that sort of stuff is this. Oh, big difference, Culp, isn't it, mate? And you know, the other thing is too, we know that it's all about like audio, but if we can get the video to be as good as the audio, then we're going to start getting places. But see how excellent. Thanks, crew. And look, what I did is I tried a different microphone. The microphone that I've got has got a range of nearly 300 meters on it. So between here and the phone with all the special attachments and that sort of stuff to get it going, it just makes it so much easier. Now see that there, right? That is a mistake that people do when they use loop knots. They'll put the loop back over itself so you've got line, right, rubbing on line, and the more it hits and all the rest of it, especially with bigger fish, it'll snap. What you've got to try and do, and this is probably not a good example, oh yeah, we can probably do it like this. What you've got to try and do, right, is you've got to try and get your loop, right, like that, to cushion the object that you're fishing on, like that, okay? So see how that's pulling on that far more evenly, right? I've got far less chance of fatigue and that sort of stuff like that. And the other thing is too, just say you've had a big school of fish come in where you need to put a different size hook on your rig. Rudder, take that out of there, right? Get yourself another one like that, okay? Bring that back through, boom, it's as easy as that. The scissors probably aren't the best example to use, but it just makes life easy, you know? And then that way what you can do is you can interchange your hooks and also your rigs and all that sort of stuff, and it just makes life easier, okay? And as you can see by that knot, you can always tell when your knots have been tied properly because the tag ends come out perpendicular to the main line. Yeah, well, that comes down to the parents, doesn't it, Stephen, you know? And I mean, with that sort of thing, bud, all we're doing is just showing people how to fish, mate. And this is, look, the thing is too, and this is where our channel's a bit different, Stephen, we just keep it real. And this is the exact same knots that I use right when I go fishing. And we've caught lots of fish. on our live streams. We've also had lots of trips where we haven't caught anything, but that's just how it goes, mate, you know. So yeah, and we can use these videos as reference and that sort of stuff. But the other thing is too, with the new streaming equipment that we've got and software and all that sort of stuff, it's a whole new learning game now, because I've got something that I'm using in the phone with my settings where it'll focus on this and see how the back is all blurry, because this is the main focal point. Okay, so now I've got to learn how to use this equipment again, but we now have the capacity to do, well, eventually with the live streams, we'll be able to do cinema quality audio and cinema quality content, provided everything works when we're out there, if you know what I mean, okay? I still got the issues with YouTube live streaming. It's always going to be a poor cousin to Twitch unless it changes. But anyway, we'll leave them to the gurus that probably don't live stream. But anyway, but that's how it goes. All right, people, so there we go. Now, the good thing about this is, right, I can turn this around here. Okay. I can bring this up here like this. Bring that in now. Okay. Like that. Excellent. Oh, the only problem is with that deathless pig, you got to find the fish, mate, you know. But anyway, so what the plan is for tomorrow, people, is tomorrow we're going to do a freshwater stream. I don't know where. Right, and with the freshwater stream, what we're going to do is this time of year, when we have the first rains for the winter and that sort of stuff, and it fills the rivers up, what it normally does is it fills the rivers up with with silt, and they wash into the river. So your rivers is virtually filthy. They're like, you know, a soup. You don't really achieve much when you fish that. Okay. There are a few places where it does improve, and if I'm able to get in there, but I've got to ring people today in the country who go fishing a lot and ask them if the rivers are going to be okay to fish, because if not, there's no point travelling all the way down there just to go, you know, I told you so sort of thing. So look, everyone, thank you very, very much for tuning in. I remember when we first started live streaming on YouTube, we had one viewer, and that was culpable. So once we start doing a lot more live streaming, okay, we'll start getting the numbers up again. Create a loop, wrap the main line, 5 twists, and then put. That might be a Snell, Steve. Snells are quite simple, right? You don't even need to put the eye of the. You don't even need to put it through the eye of the hook, right? So see that there, right? I can Snell practically anything with monofilament. Watch. So if we put that there like that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ta-da! I've just snelled that pair of scissors, see? And snell knots are like that, because in the old days, some of the hooks didn't have eyes. They had like a flat plate, and that's what snell knots were used for. Okay, so that's, yeah, basically how it works. Mate, that's the first knot I ever got shown too, bud. And oh, it is. And see, this is the difference, right? When you've got tag ends coming out the front of a knot and it clamps down onto your hook or whatever you're tying, Steve, it's always a strong join. When you've got them coming out the back, it just makes it a little bit difficult, you know. So yeah, that's all that comes down to. The other thing is too, mate, I've only been using probably about, I don't know, I've been using the same knots for about 40 years. I've tried other ones and various ones, but it's the same old story. What works for one person may not work for another. So, you know, what you've got to do is you just got to figure out what works for you, don't you? Okay? And then that way we can just sort of work it out from there. All right, well, look, the start of the live stream was a bit of a disaster because I couldn't get onto YouTube. But you live, you learn, and then you just work from there. So thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. I'm hoping tomorrow we can get some fly fishing done. Right, if not, keep being awesome, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, we do have a Twitch channel of the same name, so if you're on YouTube and you like watching live stream content, please follow us on Twitch, okay? And it's just the same channel name of Australis Fishing. And if you like gardening, self-sustainability, and more interesting stuff, okay, please tune in to Australis TV on Twitch and YouTube as well. You too, Deathless Pig, good to see you, mate. Nice to see so many familiar faces. Mate, to have 7 people in here watching, which is basically culpable and 6 others, thank you very, very much. That's really good. So what we'll do is we're going to be trying to do YouTube streams once or twice a week. And now that the audio is synced and everything's good, now I don't have to panic about having really good content and then having the audio pack it in, if you know where I'm coming from, because that was happening quite regularly and I just got sick of it. So that's why we just took a break, or a little bit of a hiatus from the live streaming, and away we go. So once again, keep being awesome. Thanks for watching. And what I'll do is I'm going to do a lot more technical stuff. I've got a VOD getting done up on casting. It's going to upset a lot of people because with the casting, I'm just going to do a really basic casting VOD. And if you watch the VOD and practice what I show you in the VOD, guarantee you that your casting will improve by at least 50%, no problems whatsoever, if you don't do what we do already, okay? But once again, thanks for watching. Appreciate you giving up your time to watch the stream. And yeah, I'll see you either on here or on Twitch. Bye for now. Oh, God. YouTube, fix your live streaming app, son.